Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Brianna Mosier with the Flint and Genesee Chamber of Commerce, and this morning we're here to talk about the Going Pro Talent Fund, which opens today. So we're very excited to share additional information on that. If you have questions or comments at any time, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, please feel free to drop them in the comments feature and we will address them at the end of today's presentation. To introduce our panel of speakers today, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Tyler Rossmessler, who is the Director of Economic Development with the Flint and Genesee Chamber.
Thanks, Bree. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. One thing we hear a lot about from companies is the need to have high quality talent in their businesses. And all businesses seem to be facing this challenge. We're excited to talk today about the Going Pro Talent Fund, which gives companies the opportunity to get a grant to train and upskill their employees. We think it's a great way for you as a business owner to drive a competitive edge in your company. And it's also a great way to retain talent and invest in the people you have. So today we have folks from GST Michigan Works. GST stands for Genesee, Shiawassee, and the Thumb. The Michigan Works. They cover our county and our region, mostly of Region 6, which is Shiawassee, Genesee, Lapeer, Tuscola, Huron, and Sanilac County. And they're going to give us an overview on what you can do to learn more about this grant program, the reinstated grant program. We went a year without it, but it's back. It's a great opportunity. So I'm gonna hand it over to Ty, Jessica, and Cindy. Probably Jessica. You'll be taking it first. So with that, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Tyler. And thanks for hosting us. We're excited to be here. As Tyler said, we're at the point where, we didn't get the funding last year, but we're incredibly grateful for everyone who supported these funds going into the budget this year. So we're GST Michigan Works. We cover the 6-county region. We have 16 business services representatives that are on the ground. Their responsibility is solely to be working with businesses, and their 100% priority right now today is getting things going with the Going Pro Talent Fund. So we're going to walk you through kind of the highlights for this year. Every year there's a little bit of an update and a tweak to the Talent Fund. So we'll give you the highlights. One thing I just wanted to mention is that as you go through the information, if you find that the Talent Fund maybe isn't a fit for you this year for whatever reason, I would still encourage you to reach out and get connected. We work very closely with our local economic developers as well as our regional MEDC business development managers. And we have funding that's available for different things. Incumbent worker is one example that comes to mind. And there's a few other things that we can do that can be helpful. So, just because the Talent Fund might not be a fit, don't think that there might not be other resources available for you and your company and your specific circumstances. So I think we'll jump into the slides. We want to go to the next slide. So as Tyler already outlined, the Talent Fund, is competitive and it provides awards for employers to assist in training and development and retaining employees and newly hired employees. The Talent Fund really is focused on not just, obviously the benefit for the business, but what are the specific benefits and advancements that individual employees are experiencing as a result of this? What skill gains do they have, and how are we seeing them move through your positions there through possible promotions and increases? The Talent Fund, the training that's supported through the Talent Fund must be to fill a demonstrated need, which we can help you to create that narrative and justification. It must be short-term in duration, and it must lead to a credential that is transferable and recognized by the related industry. So that's really, at its core, helping to build Michigan's workforce overall. Next slide. So this year, as mentioned, we've got $27 million statewide in the FY21 budget. The training period is for 1 year. So these grants would begin, those that are awarded would be effective February 1 of 2021. One thing that we want to just kind of highlight as being new is that we want to make sure that if there's on-the-job training built in for new hires, that 90-day retention period is included in that grant cycle. This year they do address virtual trainings, which obviously is hugely beneficial given what we've all been through this year, a lot fewer trainings in person when possible. So we'll talk about that. There's no impact on scoring for previous awards. And, you know, as you go through, you'll learn that really the Talent Fund has been awarded to smaller and mid-sized businesses more than any other size business. We can't get away from the fact that we've all had some kind of impact from COVID-19. So that's an element of the application this year that you'll definitely want to share sort of what those impacts are in your business. And then lastly, the human-centered approach, which it was interesting because when we first heard that, we thought, well, I think we've always taken a human-centered approach. We're always focused on what are the skill gains for the individual employees. But you'll see some things this year that are really more related to helping us achieve the governor's goal of 60 by 30 and some different thoughts and ideas around helping individuals get either high school completion or GED and how we're moving them up in the world. So I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Cindy Thornthwaite. Cindy is our business retention manager that oversees work that we do with our business resource network. And she kind of coordinates Ty and myself and Sheila Rock on the Going Pro Talent Fund, really making sure that our team has our I's dotted and T's crossed, because it's important for us to make sure that employers in our region are submitting a quality application the first time, and that way there's not a lot of back and forth and we can just get it in seamlessly. So go ahead, Cindy.
All right, thanks, Jess. And I just wanted to touch real quick on that virtual trainings. They will be allowed this year, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that those trainings must be instructor-led and managed at all times. So the instructor has to be the one that is facilitating those virtual trainings, and they all must end with a credential. So who are the eligible employers? Private sector only, and for-profit and not-for-profit. If you're unsure if you are an eligible employer, just reach out to us and we'll be able to let you know if you can move forward with the application or not. And you can see that some public-private entities are not eligible employers, such as county road commissions, municipally owned utilities, federally qualified health centers, and community mental health authorities as well. Next slide, please. All right, so who are the eligible employees for the Going Pro? There are two types of employees, and those are current employees, which are defined as on payroll at the time of your application. And also new employees are defined as those hired 30 days prior to, on, or after your award date. These employees must be permanent full-time employees, and full-time is described as 32 hours a week or more. No seasonal or part-time employees are eligible. The employees must primarily work in the state of Michigan, and they must pay state of Michigan taxes. Any individuals that are currently working through a staffing agency or on a 1099 must be increasing a job responsibility or learning a new job in order to qualify as an eligible employee. All employees must be U.S. citizens and 18 years or older. Next slide, please. Okay, eligible training providers. As you can see, there's a list. Community colleges, universities, private training providers, proprietary schools licensed in the state of Michigan. If you have any USDOL apprentices this year, you can include the Joint Apprenticeship Training Centers as eligible training providers. Vendors providing training and operation of equipment or systems for which they were the provider. So those vendors that built that piece of equipment and put it in your place of business. And this year, we're able to include local education agencies and community-based organizations and immediate school districts. And that is for a new targeted incentive. If you have an employee who needs their high school diploma or GED, and they are working to attain that high school diploma or GED during work hours, we can include that in your training. And we can also use those local education agencies listed there for helping them get that GED or high school diploma. Employers can also be a training provider. However, it has to be, sorry, I got myself confused at what slide I was on.
That's okay. I'll jump in a little bit if you don't mind. So what we're really looking at there would be an employer that, let's say you have a specific business process that's using a very specific piece of equipment where that training is not readily available otherwise. A lot of times we see that in really specific precision manufacturing processes where there really is no other available training at your local community college. The training is really specifically provided by that equipment manufacturer, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. If you're going to be if the employer is going to be the training provider, you must have that supporting justification in your rationale. And the rationale must also include where you attempted to find the training, the qualifications and experiences of your in-house trainer, and why you are seeking to train yourself. So make sure that you remember that when you're filling out that rationale. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, let's talk about some eligible and ineligible trainings. We have just a very short list here. We do have a handout that is available to employers if you would like to see the handout, but this is just an example and it's not an all-inclusive list. So you can see like eligible trainings would fall like advanced networking, American Sign Language, but that's only contextual within with an emphasis on practical application. Blueprint reading, ISO 9000, and root cause analysis. Some examples of ineligible training: laws, regulations, and taxes, basic Microsoft Office or basic safety training, subscriptions for e-learning, soft skills, and it does say adult education, but this year with that targeted incentive for a high school diploma or GED, it's just a little different, and we'll be able to explain that to you thoroughly if you have those individuals that are trying to work to attain that, because just plain adult education is an ineligible training. Okay. If your employees need soft skills, there are soft skills training available free of charge on the Pure Michigan Talent Connect, so you may want to look at that. All trainings must lead to a credential, and all trainings must improve and expand the employee's skills and develop opportunities for growth or promotion within the company. If you have a need for leadership or supervisory management training, it must be part of an overall plan or strategy, and it must be described in your rationale. It cannot be a general overview or a seminar workshop, and it is required that you would upload your syllabus or curriculum for that leadership supervisory management training at the time of your application.
So Cindy, I'm going to interrupt one more time and just say, when you see the list, when you speak with one of our BSPs and you go through that fact finding, if you don't see it on there, I mean, we've been, the state's been doing this for several years now, so it's pretty comprehensive. But that said, there are things that every year it seems like we get a request that isn't on the list. So just because it isn't there doesn't mean that we're not willing to ask. And also, just because it doesn't fit with the Going Pro Talent Fund doesn't mean that we couldn't necessarily figure out another grant or partnership opportunity through one of our partners to be able to bring you that training. So just a reminder there.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Jess. And I know sometimes it may appear on that ineligible training list, but if you can support the reason why you need that training, we can take that to the talent fund and they can either approve or deny that as well. Okay, next slide, please.
Hey, Cindy, if I could chime in just for
Sure.
a second here. On these certifications, they've got to be industry recognized and transferable in that industry. Is that
Yes.
correct?
All right. So what are some expectations of the employers? The training must have a skill enhancement need for current and new employees. You must have a physical presence in Michigan, which means you must pay Michigan taxes. And you must be compliant with all of your federal and state tax obligations. The talent fund will check, and you could possibly be denied if you are behind in your tax obligations. Employers must pay wages equal to or greater than the prevailing wage. You would sign, if you were awarded, you will sign a training agreement with GST Michigan Works. You're going to agree to retain those employees at the completion of your training. Provide a success story before your final reimbursement, and that, as Jesse touched on earlier, we need to explain this year how that training affected your employee directly, okay? And then you also need to provide the required documentation for reimbursement. This includes wage information prior to training, at the completion of training, and at 6 months post-training. I know sometimes that can get confusing, but that is a requirement from the state. So that is why we ask for the wages at all three of those points. If you're awarded a talent fund award, you must notify the MWA that you're working with, or the Michigan Works agency that you're working with, of any layoffs. And as Jesse said earlier, if you are facing those layoffs, we do have resources available to you that could possibly help you during that time. Right? And the scoring criteria always includes extra points for those employers whose total contribution equals a 1-to-1 match. So the more skin that you put in the game, the higher your points will be when they go through the application. Next slide. All right, so what are the types of contributions that the employer can add? Cash, obviously, any overages and excess training costs that you're facing. Any wages of your employees while they're in training, and any travel cost for those employees. If you received a new piece of equipment or software and you need to train individuals on those, make sure that you include that in your contribution. Any supportive services that you're giving to those employees while they're in training. That could include daycare assistance, it could include transportation, whatever they need and that you're helping them get. We'll add that in there. And your BSPs, they know what constitutes as a contribution on your part, so they will be able to help you work through that as well. And when we go through your application, we're always looking for those little things throughout the application that you may have said here, but you didn't include it in the contribution, because we want to make sure that you're showcasing everything that you're putting in, so that the talent fund team sees that when they are scoring. All right, and then again, if your employees are working to attain their high school diploma or GED while they are physically on the job, you can include their wages in your contribution as well. All right, next slide. All right, so there's that rationale. It is extremely important because that is the highest point value during the scoring process. It accounts for up to 45% of your total score. So it's very important that you touch on everything that you need. The introductory statement, the business case, what your training needs are, And this year, you're able to include any impacts from COVID-19 on your business. If you received an award in the past, make sure that you include how that benefited your business, because they will look for that. And on the same token, if you received an award in the past and for whatever reason something happened and you could not use it, or you could not use a portion of it, make sure that you touch on that too, as to what happened, what were the circumstances that caused you to give back some of that money, because they will look for that as well. And next slide. All right. So the online application is available at michigan.gov/talent fund. And where it's circled in red there, you're going to click there to access the WeBlooms management system. And once you click there, you'll be able to fill out an authorization request. Make sure you select new for your authorization request, and then that will come through to us. And as long as you have met with your BSP and you have talked to them, you've completed that fact finding, then we'll go ahead and approve that authorization request so that you can have access to the application. Make sure that you use Google Chrome. No other platform will work to access that online application, so it's very important to use Google Chrome. Okay, next slide. All right, so the applications are available starting today. And they will be available until Monday, November 30th at 5 p.m. No application will be accepted after 5 p.m. on Monday the 30th. So it's very important that if you're interested, that you get in contact with your BSP right away so that we can start this process. Because with the holiday that's in November and everything else that's going on, that it seems like you got 28 days, but you don't really have 28 days. It's going to go very, very quickly. We can definitely anticipate a demand to exceed the supply of funds that are available, as they do every year. If you are not awarded the first time around, you will go in a queue. So if funds do become available, then you may possibly be awarded at a later date. All awards will be announced in mid-January. And we will receive that list. And as soon as we know, you will know whether you're approved or not. Okay. Next slide. All right. So just some reminders. All businesses may submit one independent application, and you may also participate in one industry-led collaborative, or an ILC application. The ILC applications will not be available until April of 2021. So that's why we're not going to really discuss it on this presentation right now this morning. But if you and another business, another employer in your region, if you have the same training needs, you can work together to fill out an industry-led collaborative application. Going Pro Talent Fund is not guaranteed funding. It is based on scoring, and the ones that score the highest will receive the awards. And they are very competitive. Every year we see a lot more businesses apply every year. So the Going Pro Talent Fund will not reimburse for any trainings that start before February 1st of 2021. So as you're looking at what trainings you need, make sure that you are not scheduling those to begin before February 1st, because we can't reimburse you for anything that happens before that date. Access to the online application is only available through a Michigan Works agency such as GST Michigan Works. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Ty.
Thanks, Cindy. Great job. Really great information. For the employers who are interested in moving forward, these steps are mandatory. So please remember to go to our website, GSTMIworks.org/employer/going pro. Please complete and submit the registration on that page to receive an email that will get you to a video on the Going Pro Talent Fund, and that'll provide you with a lot of information. And please watch the entire video presentation. Very important that you do so. The video will give you more detailed information, obviously, and it'll tell you how to apply. So next would be a business solution professional will follow up with you, a BSP from GST Michigan Works, to help complete a fact finding and help you complete the authorization request and provide you with further guidance for the Going Pro process. For more information, you can go to these two links on the slide to help you get a ton of information out there on those pages. So that's how you follow up, and that's how we'll follow up with you. Cindy, questions now?
I went ahead and posted that link in the chat as well as all of our contact information as well.
Cindy and Ty and Jess, thank you so much for sharing all that information. A really cool opportunity for businesses to get some cash to invest in their employees. Could you, just because you gave some good examples of what type of training is eligible and what's not eligible, now that you've done this several times, this program, can you give some more examples, maybe some of your favorite ones that were approved? And or just kind of help paint the picture of what type of trainings that will get money available.
Absolutely. Ty, do you have a favorite in mind? Oh, you're on mute.
Yep.
Sorry about that. There's a couple that stand out. And that's that we have a couple of employers who really embrace the hard skills piece and the certifications that were transferable in an industry, and that was always important to do that, just to make sure that your people are getting the training they need. Actually, I wanted to refer back really quick to an application. A company over in Shiawassee County brought in a plasma cutter, and the only training that could be done on it would be done by the manufacturer of that tool. So it was important for them to include that in their rationale, and they did, of course, and they did get funded, and it really helped get their folks trained to use that plasma cutter. So really important there.
Yeah, I think about, way back, one of the first ones that we did actually ended up being an industry-led collaborative, and it was among grain elevators. And there were several across the region, and they did confined spaces training and aerial rescue, things that you don't always think of. And I think a lot of times people think that the Skilled Trades Training Fund is just for manufacturing, but have, employers across sectors that are able to access these funds, whether that's, agricultural or healthcare. We've had some great healthcare collaboratives as well. But yeah, I think that we see a really high impact also with small businesses when they're able to, set up an additional line. We saw several last year that they absolutely wouldn't have even been able to utilize equipment that they have in order to expand their business. So the success stories that we have on the other side of this are always very impactful.
Mm-hmm. Another question is about how much money are we talking here for the average company? I know it's always going to depend on the application and certainly how much the company's putting in, but can you give any parameters about the what a grant or typical grant award might look like?
Well, I think in the past, if you look on the Talent Fund's website, in the past, the average award amount per employer is around $35,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've had some, for example, we had a healthcare system that implemented an entirely new IT system. They were awarded $88,000, and then we've had others that were, $7,500. So yeah, but I think probably on average ours for our region have really averaged out right in there between 25 and 35,000. We had quite a few that were 17 in the last year, so they don't have to be huge.
Right.
And we should keep in mind, employers should keep in mind that in the recent past, the state wanted a focus on not these huge applications for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were really looking to disperse the money as far as they could go to include as many employers as possible. That became a really big issue in the past. So we've seen them as little as $1,500. But the average, like Cindy said, in the 30s.
Yeah. So definitely worth your time. If you've got some training that your staff needs, then might be worth a little bit of time to go through this process and see what you can get. And then could you guys just talk one more time, important dates to remember and next steps if anyone's watching this webinar and wants to know what to do next? One more time.
Absolutely. So over in the chat, I've posted the link to our website so 2 requirements that the state has. The number one is that we have to host employer information sessions. So this is kind of an abbreviated version of that, but it's available 24/7 on our website via that link. Once you submit to request that video, what will happen is we are notified and we immediately reach out to make sure you received it, number one. And number two, go ahead and get the ball rolling on scheduling a time to do a fact finding, which is the other required element that we have. And, as Cindy alluded to, we've got a pretty short timeline because the applications are open now today and they close on November 30th at 5 p.m. So usually it takes a little bit of back and forth. I will say that with the application being online, once you request that application and we open it up, there's usually a little bit of back and forth, so that we can make sure that we can help wherever it be to, whether that's honing the rationale or helping to kind of guide that process along. We had the opportunity to work within that system last year, very smooth process. So we don't anticipate any hiccups there. And then just on the back end, so that everyone is aware, once that closes on November 30th at 5 p.m., we can't receive any more applications. But as a local MWA, we will have about another 9 days to be able to look through those and make sure that they're top quality before the final submission. So we won't be able to open any new after November 30th, but we do have a little bit of time to just make sure that we have the best quality on those applications.
Mm-hmm.
So Jessica, some of the information that you were mentioning, you put in the chat actually came to our private chat. So viewers, might not be able to see that now, and that's okay. We'll make sure that all of that contact information is added to the video description. This live stream will live on our Facebook and YouTube channel, so we'll get all of that information added there and sent out with the link to the video. So people will have access to your contact information. The links were provided in a previous slide, but how timely, because so many businesses are wrapping up their budget planning for next year. And Cindy, I think it was during your slide you mentioned how the one-to-one, sorry about that. Cindy, you mentioned how the one-to-one match helps in the scoring criteria. So business owners, as you guys are planning your budgets, be sure to keep in mind talent development to grow your own talent pool. And I always think back to a quote, and I'm sure you guys have heard this too, what if I invest in someone and I leave? But then on the opposite side of that, what if you don't and they stay? So the importance for upskilling your staff is huge. And this is a great opportunity to do that.
Great opportunity. And we're all here to help. So feel free to reach out to these folks at Michigan Works or us at the Flint Genesee Chamber or any of your local EOs around the county or around the region. Sorry. We're here to help. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much for joining.